Good morning. I know you waited for a few seconds of silence because, excuse me, what a wonderful way to start the show, right? Well, you know how we do it here. We are starting the show. We're waiting for the sound to come through the chat room. And yes, this is a familiar voice, but not as familiar as you would like it to be. It is not the legend today again. We're giving Lenny a couple days off. So between yesterday and today, and tomorrow and Sunday, Lenny will have a whopping 4 days off in a row. He doesn't know what to do with himself. He was just taking a nap. So we'll have to see how that works out. And welcome to everybody listening on demand. Of course, you have to wait until the sound comes through to the chat room. You can join us here in chat every day of the week, Monday through Monday. Is that how they put it? LennyMelnickFantasySports.com/live. You can interact with our wonderful and knowledgeable fantasy baseball chat room. We love our friends that come and listen every day, so that's why we accommodate them. And we do not give out the nuggets, the tidbits, the news, the notes, the drama, all the MLB knowledge that you want until they can hear it. So we are definitely accommodating to the people in the chat room. So just waiting for the sound to come through, and we will get started right as soon as that happens. So yes, there's drama in baseball. What's new, right?
All right, sound's on.
Sound is good. So let me just tell them the sound is good. And let's get started. So I'd like to start out with Chris from Cambridge and tell the world that today is Ramon Martinez' 56th birthday. He is the first Martinez bro, and he's 56 today. Who remembers his final year with the Pirates? I do not. Let's go ahead and leave that to the chat room. So welcome aboard, Chris from Cambridge. Welcome aboard, Chris Gallo, DK Lush, Eddie and Teresa Heckman, Leonard Donaldson, Lenny and me, Malpal and Tina, Merrill and Mitchell, SM King Turd and Turd Jr., Timothy Hooker, Triple Play, and a cast of thousands. I can't see any further down the list than that, but we welcome to all of you, and we are glad that you made it today. And let's go ahead and get started. And look, we're going to talk about the drama, but honestly, nobody knows anything yet. It's just that people with common sense left in the world, I know that's few and far between. These people can see holes in this story that do not make sense. And of course, we're going to come up with some explanations in our mind because nobody else is doing it. Nobody has the full story here. But it is interesting to see how people react to stuff like this. I mean, good grief. It's like, anyway, fanboys are going to obviously assume right away that Ohtani didn't have anything to do with this. And people, Astros fans especially, are chiming in on this one because of all the drama that they endured. Also, Bauer people are chiming in on this one. There is a lot to do with just Ohtani is the number one guy. I mean, he is just too good for baseball for people to even expect anything like this coming from Ohtani. And so we'll talk about that after we go through the news and notes, because what's really important is to win your fantasy baseball leagues. Right, Laura? Right. And speaking of Laura, okay, the big Mets fan, our resident Mets fantasy, just Mets insider is Laura and Mary, and these ladies know their stuff. And guess what the Mets did yesterday? They added J.D. Martinez to their 40-man payroll, now at $325.3 million. Is that possible? Is that even possible, Laura? $325.3 million? I guess so. They cut some of their payroll after last year, which was almost $500 million. All right. Well, JD Martinez this offseason, Scott Boras is his agent, and he asked for at least $20 million. He actually turned down $14 million. Yesterday, he signs for $12 million. So a lot of Scott Boras clients are not getting what they expected and what they asked for. Now we know who's batting behind Alonso to protect Pete Alonso in the lineup. We also now can eliminate them trying to break in these two young hitters at once in Brett Baty and Mark Vientos. We don't know exactly how this is going to pan out, but it also can compensate somewhat if Starling Marte does not come all the way back. Obviously, JD Martinez is the DH. That's where he qualifies. That's where he'll play. But just in case Marte doesn't come all the way back, they can rely on JD Martinez to play in the outfield. They don't really care about defense. Obviously, they got Brett Baty at third base, okay, who's just not great defensively. Also, kind of gives the Mets fans something to look forward to. Kind of tells the fans, look, we're not giving up completely. This is not just a rebuild year. We do think we can make the playoffs with our current lineup, and adding JD Martinez just does add to that. But even before JD Martinez signed, the Mets lineup wasn't looking that shabby, to be honest with you. And these Brett Baty and Mark Vientos, they entered camp with Baty penciled in as the primary third baseman and Mark Vientos set for the majority of the at-bats at DH. But now they're going to compete for work at third base. Brett Baty is a lefty, while Vientos bats from the right side. That could allow them to play matchups, although both players have an option remaining and could be sent to AAA without landing on waivers, so there is options here. Now, Brett Baty just crushed it at AAA Syracuse, but really did struggle at the big league level. He hit .298 with a .388 on-base percentage in 121 plate appearances with Syracuse to force his way onto the big league roster. But he finished the season with the Mets batting .212 with the .275 on-base percentage, and we found out that he hits fastballs good, but off-speed pitches are not so good. As in fact, with fastballs, Brett Baty hit .283 expected batting average, and 6 of his 9 home runs came off of fastballs. But the league figured out that his expected batting average against breaking balls is 151, and .239 against off-speed pitches. So then, of course, they threw these pitches at him 44% of the time. And also, facing lefties was a mystery for him. He hit .176 with 29 strikeouts in 91 bats against lefties. And that's that. So the league figured out quickly that Brett Baty can hit fastballs, but he can't hit anything else. So they just started throwing everything else in the kitchen sink at him besides fastballs. He's also a liability at this third base job. So, I was telling people, look, get Baty or Vientos. These guys are each going to be in the lineup. Now that is not the case. Obviously, JD Martinez will be in the lineup every day, and these two, Vientos and Baty, will have to compete for a spot at third base. Now, Brett Baty in spring training has hit 3 home runs in 44 at-bats with a .250 batting average, so not horrible this spring. While you got Mark Vientos, 24 years old, earned a promotion to the Mets in May, following, again, both of these guys just crushed it in Syracuse at AAA. He hit 9 home runs over 233 plate appearances, but also posted a .620 OPS and struck out 30.5% of the time. He's fanned at a 27% rate during his time at AA and AAA, so this is a guy who is probably not going to have much improvement with the strikeouts in 2024. Mark Vientos does take walks. He walked 10.1% of the time. So that was in the minors, but when he came to the Mets, he only walked 4.3% of the time. I think that will probably tick up, but his strikeouts are probably permanent. Mark Vientos hits the ball really hard, as shown by his 51% hard hit rate and 10.7% barrel rate. He only has DH eligibility entering the season, but it is going to be a competition between Mark Vientos and Brett Baty now that J.D. Martinez has signed. Now, if you look at the National League Rookie of the Year odds for this coming season, you see that Yoshinobu Yamamoto is at plus 250, Jackson Chourio plus 650, Jung-Hoo Lee at plus 650. You got the youngster in San Diego, Jackson Merrill, at plus 1100. Kyle Harrison plus 1400. And Shoto Imanaga plus 2000. You all know who I'm taking. If I'm going to place a bet on the Rookie of the Year, I'm taking Shota Imanaga at plus 2000. What the hell? Since we're talking gambling, look, MLB straight up sold their soul to DraftKings, and you can't be surprised that players are gambling. MLB is making millions of dollars in advertising for a gambling website. We'll see, and we will talk more, of course, about Ohtani as the show goes on. Mookie Betts went 4 for 5 with a home run and a double and a walk and drove in 6 runs, okay, yesterday, even though the Dodgers lost to the Padres 15-11. Mookie Betts' 6 RBIs are tied for the third most in a game of his entire career and the most since September 12th, 2017. One thing I can say in Yamamoto's defense, and you know I'm not over here making up excuses for Yamamoto like a lot of little fantasy fans are since they drafted him way too early, but I will say that his batting average on balls in play is .559. That's crazy. That's bad luck. And also another thing in Yamamoto's defense, okay, is that I saw an overlay from Pitchers List yesterday throwing several pitches. We were talking about whether or not Yamamoto is tipping his pitches. It seemed to be somewhat of an issue this spring. He did work on it. He said he's not concerned about it. He made some adjustments to address it. At least he's not ignoring it, you know. He's actually trying to make the adjustments to avoid tipping his pitches, and Pitchers List did an overlay of several of Yamamoto's different pitches, different pitch types, okay, and all of them looked the same. I do not think that Yamamoto is tipping his pitches. We'll have to see how that works out. That batting average on balls in play is way too high to be sustainable, and so there is some serious bad luck going on here when it comes to Yamamoto. So far, we'll see what happens, but I'll try to stick up for him when I can, although I'll never ever admit that drafting him early was a good call for fantasy managers. That's the difference between me and some other of my greatest friends who I have some high respect for too, like Turd and even Malpal, who draft for greatness, okay, instead of trying to avoid risk. It makes the season much more exciting than my season when I'm drafting guys like Machado and these veterans who aren't quite as fun. Although Machado is pretty fun with his antics, I have to admit. He's not a good example. I should say some guy more like Nolan Arenado or Paul Goldschmidt or, you know, these soft tossers that I like that are pitching 92, 93 miles an hour. It doesn't make it as exciting, but you know, it's your choice. That's why we all work together and we come up with the best fantasy advice that we can, and that's how it works. You're not always right. That's it. Cronenworth. Let's talk about this guy. Look, he's getting a little hyped up right now. Although Jake Cronenworth, we talk about Jake Cronenworth as somebody good to target in drafts, and that's because his ADP was 388. Don't expect Jake Cronenworth to continue what you saw him do yesterday. He had 4 RBIs. That's the second most in a game since the start of last year. He had 6 RBIs on April 15th. He also had 3 hits yesterday, which are tied for his second most in a game of his entire career. He had 4 hits in a game in August of 2021. But here's the thing. Jay Cronenworth might be getting a little overhyped. Don't reach for this guy if you're still drafting. His ADP is 388, and that is where he belongs. His average is never going to be that great. RotoWire's projecting him 244 with 14 home runs, 67 RBIs, 75 runs, and 5 stolen bases. But he is 30 years old, so the upside is not too exciting. It is what it is with him. He did sign a 7-year, $80 million contract extension with the Padres last March, so he's not at risk of losing any kind of playing time. But at age 30, the upside is about what it is. It's 15 homers, a handful of stolen bases, a 250 batting average at best, and if the Padres lineup is as good as it was yesterday, then he could really excel with more runs and more RBIs than RotoWire even projects him for. So really, it's going to depend upon where he hits in the lineup, which, by the way, he was batting third yesterday. And if he stays batting third, he could absolutely outdo the expected stats. And that's why I think that there's a couple people in our chat room that are a little bit high on Cronenworth, but it's mostly based on his ADP and not the fact that he's going to be some rock star for the Padres. This spring, Cronenworth, 25 at-bats, 1 home run, 1 stolen base, and a 240 batting average. But by the way, I will reiterate that where he hits in the lineup will matter, especially if the Padres hit as good as they did in Korea. He batted third. If he stays batting third, it's a huge win for fantasy managers, all right? So keep expectations mediocre, and then maybe you'll be pleasantly surprised with what you get. Right, Leonard?
Yes, sir.
Leonard just called me sir. Should I cry and complain? Should I tell everybody that this is a racist and sexist and all this? Never mind, I'm just kidding. Okay, Giancarlo Stanton's 8 RBIs. He had 8 RBIs yesterday, or was it Wednesday? Today's Friday. Either way, Giancarlo Stanton had a great day. The most by any player in a spring training game since 2006. He went 3 for 3 with 3 home runs and 8 RBIs on Wednesday against the Pirates. Now, one good thing about Aaron Judge is that he did slim down. He slimmed down this winter. He's in the best shape of his life. Don't forget it. He's in the best shape of his life. King Hap, okay, will star here on Saturday and Sunday at 9 a.m. We really appreciate King Hap helping us out. Right, so Lenny can go and auctioneer a draft that we do every year. Yamamoto will absolutely win National League Rookie of the Year. Turd has not given up on Yamamoto at all, right? Mitchell Hartson says, thanks for snagging Dylan Cease away from him in NL only. He bid a ton, but you still outbid me. We don't bid in that league. We only just draft. I don't really know but did he get hurt or something? I really wasn't paying attention, but I can only imagine the only reason that you're thanking me for taking Dylan Cease from you is that he's hurt. Tell me he's not hurt. I didn't see that in my notes today. Now, like I said, Stanton in the best shape of his life. Listen to this, though. That one game for Stanton, it improved his spring training numbers from a 250 batting average and a 314 on base percentage to a 314 batting average and a 359 on base percentage. Obviously, durability remains a major concern given Stanton has not reached 400 plate appearances, okay, in each of the past 2 seasons. Cronenworth value is his multiple position eligibility. Otherwise, he's basically Alex Kirilloff, according to Malpal, who knows because that is our resident San Diego Padres insider. Oh. Dylan Cease, $500 fab in that league. Yes, you do have $500 to spend. Tell me the update on Dylan Cease. Is he okay? Please. Did I get him in that league? Did I get him? I hope I did. All right. The Orioles rotation is now set, Eddie Heckman. The Orioles rotation, according to Brandon Hyde, Corbin Burns will pitch on opening day. Number 2 is Turd's favorite, Grayson Rodriguez, pitching against the Angels. Number 3 in the rotation, Tyler Wells, pitching on the 31st versus the Angels. Number 4 is Dean Kremer, pitching April 1st versus the Royals. And number 5 is Cole Irvin, pitching on April 2nd against the Royals. Now, Kyle Bradish, is a big deal. His status is in question because the MRI revealed a sprain in his right UCL back in February. You all remember that. Now, Bradish did receive a PRP injection, and he's been slowly building his arm up over the last 5 weeks. And I will say there's been some decent progress here, but still a lot of uncertainty as to when or even if he'll be able to make a proper return this season. So that's pretty scary when they say not when or if. That's pretty crazy. All right. Turd loves Tyler Wells, an absolute steal in ADP this year. That's awesome. And King Hap, we appreciate you so much. We appreciate everybody in the chat room for coming and supporting Lenny and the work that we do. We really appreciate it, and we will stand by you like you stand by us, and we love it. John Means will also be sidelined for the first month of the season. We're thinking he's got soreness in his surgically repaired elbow, and so that has been delaying John Means' off-season ramp-up work. Let's go Orioles, says Eddie Heckman. You know that the Blue Jays manager, John Schneider, is only 27 years old. He says that he told Bowden Francis he's going to open the season in the rotation. Now,
Francis is 27. Sorry.
Oh, 27-year-old Bowden Francis, not Blue Jays manager John Schneider. I was really wondering about that. That seems so young, okay? All right. Forgive my mistake here. Bowden Francis, 27 years old, will open the season in the rotation, but once Alek Manoah is healthy, Francis might find himself bumped back to a relief role. You know, he still has an option remaining, so the Jays could send Bowden Francis back down to Buffalo just to keep him stretched out as a starter. So don't get all crazy on Bowden Francis. Yes, he's going to at least get a few turns in the rotation in April. If he does well, he should, if you pitch well, you stay in the rotation. If you do mediocre, you might lose your spot to Alek Manoah, who's not even mediocre. So I guess we'll have to see about that. But this is his Bowden Francis' first chance to make it as a rotation guy. He's 27 years old, as mentioned. Amazing Met fan says Manoah still has to get his head straight. Thank you, amazing Met fan. And has Bauer smoked the Yankees yet? No. He's going to pitch against them on Sunday. And there is some video of him putting on his new Mexico team hat and shirt. So he's excited. And, of course, Rachel Luba right by his side. She even has a shirt that says Ray Chalupa because Bauer calls her Chalupa. And either way, these two are clearly besties, if not more than that. I wish they would just get married and get this damn thing over with, and maybe Bauer will be able to reclaim some of his reputation. All right? Prove to the world that you've matured and that you're just not so stupid anymore. Okay? Let's go. Marry Rachel Luba and just let's go. Jonathan Aranda, the Rays, has broken his right ring finger. He will open the season on the injured list. He was injured on Tuesday fielding a ground ball. Now he's scheduled to have surgery. They're going to insert a pin into his finger, and he will likely miss about 4 to 6 weeks. He was slated to open the season as Tampa Bay's primary DH against right-handed pitching, but the injury will likely keep him out for at least all of April. You also have now Curtis Mead, Harold Ramirez, and Ahmed Rosario. They could all three benefit from some added opportunities against right-handed pitching early on in the season. And don't get me started on the Rays and how they do things. You know, they have so many people getting a little bit of playing time. That's how they manage. That's how they do it. I can't knock them for it, but it sure doesn't help fantasy managers. With the Tampa Bay Rays, they got a DH against a righty, a DH against a lefty, and all kinds of position-eligible players that don't see full-time at-bats. As Mandela said, you don't fail. You either win or learn. Right, that's a good one. That's right. So, Jackson Merrill, the San Diego Padre, hit a double off the top of the wall in right field yesterday, and he's showing everybody why he won the Padres center field job this spring. Go Jackson Merrill, on the list for the National League Rookie of the Year, potentially. We like it. Now, you know, you look at the Padres lineup, and I mean, going into the spring, it was just an embarrassment almost, because yes, they have Machado, yes, they have Tatis, yes, they have Xander, but other than that, it was pretty desolate. We didn't even know, we never heard of some of the guys in the outfield for the Padres, but I'll tell you what, they got this youngster Jackson Merrill. They have a couple of other pieces that seem to be complementary of each other, and we'll see what happens, right, Mal Palantina? Now, the Tigers, they optioned Akil Baddoo to AAA Toledo yesterday, and Baddoo was having not a great spring. He hasn't been good for the last 2 years. He went just 3 for 25 with 13 strikeouts at the plate. Only 25 years old still, but he's really struggled over the past couple seasons following a really good rookie campaign. I think he was a Rule 5 or some kind of free player that wasn't really known of, and he came and caught the baseball world by storm. Akil Baddoo has not done good since. I have to admit, I drafted him really late. I mean, I'm talking round 49, round 50 in a real deep league. So we'll see what happens there, but he was optioned. Now, Nick Lodolo, he's going to remain in Arizona when the Reds break camp and will pitch in a minor league game on March 26th. That's according to Mark Sheldon of MLB. Now, Nick Lodolo was behind other starters during spring training, and he's going to continue to ramp up ahead of an expected regular season debut April 10th. So anybody that has Lodolo, expect him to make his season debut April 10th. All right. So following his outing next Tuesday, which is March 26th, he will pitch in 2 games while on rehab assignment at AAA Louisville, and then he'll be up. Nestor Cortez having to take the ball on opening day because Mr. Stroman is too much of a jerk. Can you imagine getting hired by the Yankees and telling them that you will not pitch on opening day? I never would have expected something like that from Marcus Stroman. He's such a tough guy on social media, right? His dad's a tough guy. They lift all kinds of weights. They're a bunch of tough guys. And then he turns around and tells the Yankees, forget about that part of it, but what about the fans? The Yankees fans are not forgiving. How embarrassing for him. He's supposed to make his debut for the Yankees, and he refuses to pitch on opening day, so you got poor Nestor Cortez faltering in his final outing yesterday. He threw 4 innings against Atlanta, and he allowed 3 runs on 6 hits and 2 walks. He struck out 3 batters. And yes, Yankees manager Aaron Boone named Nestor Cortez as the opening day starter last week. All right. He worked up to 75 pitches yesterday, and he really didn't do too bad. Actually, the first 4 innings, he gave up just 1 run. But then after that, we would have to assume this is probably the third time through the lineup. He allowed 3 straight hits, which included a home run, a triple, and a single in that order, which resulted in 2 runs before he was pulled without retiring any batters in the 5th inning. So we'll see what happened. He did not finish the spring great. He finishes it with an 8.10 ERA, a 1.74 whip, 13 strikeouts, and 2 walks over 10 innings. Okay? That's right. I should have taken Lenny in round 49. You're right. I would have been better off, right, Eddie? Let's talk about Paul Blackburn, okay? And before you start throwing empty beer bottles at me, just wait, okay? I have some stuff to say about Paul Blackburn. He's not great. He's not exciting, all right? His ADP is laughable, but he is the number 1 pitcher on the Athletics. Now, you can look at that as a positive or a negative because Paul Blackburn is pitching for the worst team in the major leagues, Oakland, and he will get very little run support, although there are a couple of youngsters in Oakland that, could be all right. I can't think of them right now. So they're probably not that good. Honestly, I can't think of anybody right now in Oakland, but I know I've drafted a couple of them. So I'm not going to avoid somebody just because they're Oakland. Now, another downside to Paul Blackburn is that, number 1, he's going to have a crappy team. You're not going to see many wins. You're not going to get a ton of run support. And he's going to have to go against other pitchers in the league that are number 1 starters when he's clearly not a number 1 starter. Although the Athletics did say that Alex Wood would be their opening day starter. And I like Alex Wood. If he could ever stay healthy is the big question. But I'm telling you what, at the cost of Alex Wood in ADP, bring on some Alex Wood. Blackburn had a good spring. He ended the spring with a 2.84 ERA. All right, that was his pristine outing yesterday. He needed only 63 pitches to get through 6 innings. He fired 6 no-hit innings against the Cubs on Wednesday. He allowed 1 walk and 3 strikeouts. Strikeouts are not his strong suit. Although over the last couple years, he hasn't had as good of a ground ball rate, but he, in his career, has induced to the tune of about 50% ground balls, which I know Malpal likes. Now, also, he doesn't really fit the formula as some kind of great breakout star, obviously. He's been in the league since 2017, and we pretty much know what he is. He doesn't strike out enough batters to fall into Malpal's formula, but he throws a 91.9 mile an hour fastball, which is a slow tosser, all right? Soft tosser. I get it, why people stay away from him, but his FIP is consistently lower than his ERA, right? And as I said, he's not getting a lot of run support in Oakland, but I saw somebody who I follow on X today talk about grabbing Chris Bubic, B-U-B-I-C, the Kansas City Royals pitcher, and stashing him because he's not going to be back until at least the All-Star breaks. And is this a guy that you would really even consider stashing on your injured spot as an injured guy? Because when he comes back, he's really not that good. I did a little research on Chris Bubic this morning, and I looked at his formula, and he doesn't qualify. Paul Blackburn is actually comparable as far as the formula is going. Neither one of these guys strike out enough batters to be considered any kind of potential breakout. But at least Paul Blackburn has a job, and he's starting the season not injured, and he finished the spring extra hot against the Cubbies. So if I'm going to try to take somebody really late in a draft, look, I love Mike Soroka too that late. I'll draft Soroka before Blackburn, but I just thought I'd hand over somebody that is at least a warm body that's going to be out there every 5 days, and he's not going to kill you with a 5 or 6 ERA, even though he's not going to strike out a lot of batters. He's not flashy. He's probably not going to get hurt and all of that. So let's talk about Ohtani since we have to, right? Yesterday was really shady too because Ohtani was at his locker, and of course the vultures are just clamoring to talk to him, and the PR people for the Dodgers surrounded him and basically told the reporters that he will not be speaking. I don't know how he could speak. He has no interpreter now. I'm just kidding. I know there's an interpreter around, but basically said just everybody have a good day and then walked out. Now, was Ohtani a victim of theft? Okay, at the hands of his friends and interpreter. I'm not going to try to act like I know any more than you guys. Nobody really does, but we're going to find out because the feds are involved in this investigation and they don't care about the reputation of Ohtani, his fans, MLB, or none of it. Actually, who knows with the justice system nowadays, but regardless of that, the feds are involved in this. They're looking into this bookie. It's not even just about the fact that California, it's completely illegal to gamble there. You can't even use DraftKings. You can't play online. And which is probably why there's a need for an illegal bookie. Don't people get that the more you make something illegal, the more people are going to do it behind your back, and they're going to do it illegally without any regulations or any kind of thing like that? But in my personal opinion, there's no bookie in the world that's going to give some guy. I've seen everything from he makes $100,000 a year to $300,000 a year. I think the $300,000 a year, even if he did make $300,000 a year, he's with Ohtani every day, and he does a lot more things than just interpret. He drives him around. He probably picks out his outfits. I mean, the guy is with him every day of the year, including the off season. And so let's say he gets paid $300,000 a year. There's no bookie in the world that's going to allow this guy to get $4.5 million in debt before he gets paid. The money came straight from Ohtani's account, which is exactly why Ohtani's name came up in the first place. You would think that they would at least transfer the money to the interpreter before he paid the bookie, right? I mean, I don't know what's going on here, but I am pretty sure there's more to this story. Now, whether MLB cares enough about it to do anything, it is illegal for baseball players to bet on anything, on any sport. So it doesn't really matter if he's betting on baseball, football, soccer, or any of those things. It really doesn't matter. According to the rule book, the baseball players are not allowed to bet illegally on any sport. And it's just, I feel, I see all these people on Twitter, you know, their name in their names on Twitter are something like Show Dog and Shohei Ohtani's dad and stuff like this. And it's always like their biggest fan, and they're not having any of it. They're like, oh, he was totally taken advantage of and stuff. And they're just blindly supporting this guy when they don't know anything about what's going on. I don't think he was the victim of theft. I feel like this interpreter is taking the blame for what he did. When he said he made an answer to a question at a press conference, and they asked about the relationship between Ippy and Ohtani said, we're not friends, we're business partners. And then they looked at each other and laughed. There's no chance that Ohtani doesn't know about what was going on, and it's just pretty disgraceful that they're making this kid take the fall for what was, in my opinion, obviously this is just my opinion. I don't know any more than anybody, and I'm not trying to act like I do. It's just my opinion. I don't think, of course, they have to blame this guy. He probably said, okay, blame me. I would probably do that too if it was the situation that it is, but it's not going to go over well with the feds. They're going to find out what happened. We may never find out in baseball because MLB is going to be so busy trying to push this thing off. I mean, Shohei is the face of baseball, no doubt about it. So we'll see what happens. But, of course, I had to get my little 2-bit in, especially since I had more time to kill on this podcast. And that's it. The legend is warming his auctioneering voice up in the bullpen. It's true. It's true. Now, what else do we have going on in the chat room? Difficult to be the one for Oakland and face other number ones. That's absolutely true. That's why, he's not going to get a lot of run support. He's not going to win a lot of games. But if you're going to take a guy late like that, I don't think Chris Bubic is the way. I had to go find myself somebody, and the news just happened to throw me Paul Blackburn from yesterday. So, Lenny, anything to add to the show?
That should do it, everybody.
Everybody, we're going to go now, and we're going to have a great day. I hope the everybody in the chat room has a great day. And cheers.